Well, good afternoon and welcome to the July 2023 poetry reading of the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. I'm Bob Nielsen, your host for the Consortium's monthly reading series, along with Jennifer and Kent, who are also sometimes hosts, and also Garland Thompson. The Consortium, as some of you may know, is a long-standing organization. We've been presenting, we and our predecessors have been presenting poetry readings here on the Monterey Peninsula for over 30 years. We are descendants, if you will, of a tradition established for the National Writers Union and other organizations before that. Our consortium leader is Kent Leatham, who's with us here today. And his email address he will place into the chat room if you'd like to reach out to him if you don't have his email already. We're on Facebook at the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. We post some announcements there, and we also post pictures and so forth from our various readings. This is our 38th Zoom-based reading. We're in our fourth year of doing this. We started it when the pandemic settled in. And we've, as a result, been able to have poets and audience members all over the world, which is great. And one of us is today coming to us from Mexico. It's really a great thing that the internet has enabled us to do, and it's helped us overcome the disadvantages and the stresses of the pandemic. But we're working on getting back to the energy of in-person readings, and we hope within a month or two to be able to resume getting together in the Monterey Salinas area in person, which is a very enjoyable experience. And we'll also work on at the same time video recording the in-person readings so that we can then ultimately get those up onto our YouTube channel. This afternoon is a special afternoon for us. We're able to, and we're honored really, to present and showcase the work of three outstanding award-winning local high school poets. These folks are important members of the poetry community in the Monterey Salinas area and the community, therefore, of the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. They are Maram Haddad, Chloe Haggquist, and Mahi, who are with us today and are each going to read for about 15 minutes or so. So what I'd like you to do is sit back. If you haven't already gotten your cup of coffee or whatever else you're drinking or your snack, do that and just enjoy the next 45 minutes to an hour of reading together here. And we're going to hear some fine poetry, and we thank in advance our three poets for being with us today. It's going to be a great afternoon. Our first poet today is Maram Haddad. She's a junior at Pacific Grove High School, and she's the winner of the 2023 Elliot Ruchowitz-Roberts Poetry Prize through the Carl Cherry Center. Maram sometimes finds herself writing poetry at random times of the day, and she enjoys reading thriller books. She's currently on a journey this summer to work on and write her own poetry book. She's done one already. She's thinking of expanding that and maybe doing a second one. So Maram, thank you for being with us. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is the first time I've done something like this, so I think it's a great experience, and I'm so excited to share my poetry with you all. So this first poem I have is called Humanity. It hurts in humanity when you cross paths with a stranger and they pay you no mind. That whatever you've learned from the elderly, honoring a hello, nodding your head, it's all gone to waste. That the screeching play yells of children are the only pure elements that we have of anyone anymore. We hide from each other in fear that something will hurt us, that we'll hurt each other. But the chances that someone might hurt themselves if they don't hear a good warning is probably greater than you getting killed on the sidewalk. For every person I cross paths with leaking a smile from my lips, somehow I hope that it's a gesture that shows someone out there cares. This next one is called Bedroom Fears. And, I kind of want to say before I read this one, it's kind of like when you were a little kid and, before you went to sleep and you'd turn off the lights and all that, you'd be scared that there's like monsters under your bed or like something's gonna scare you. So you go run up to your parents in their room and you're like, help me, help me. So that one's kind of just a piece of that, but I guess in a more mature perspective. That sometimes even like older kids or older people still have the same fears that children do. So this one is Bedroom Fears. I'm not just afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of being alone in the dark. That the black walls will envelop me, leaving no escape. Where my only safety will be found, wrapped in my blankets, clutching my pillows. The enemy lurks behind my closet door, ready to lunge at me when I open it. And if I step on the carpet floor for too long, the monster under my bed will grab me. If my hand adventures away from the boundary of my frame, I'll be tickled, shaken to the core. When my nightmares consist of death, and I wake up with the sinking feeling of mortality behind me, I don't turn around and squeeze my eyes shut, praying that mortality waits another day. When I'm alone in the dark, I'm left with so much negative imagination. The dark facilitates so much fear. Fear's so childish, it seems. It's so scary in here. And to be alone, only one can imagine. That's that one. The third one I have is the one that I won for the Elliot Ruchowitz Award, and this one is super important to me, especially because it's for my grandmother. It's titled "An Apology to My Grandmother." I wrote it while I was in a class, and the prompt was to write a poem, for your grandmother or about your language that you can, like another language you can speak. And so another language I can speak is Arabic, but not that much. I'm not as fluent as I wish I was. But this one is kind of like a mix of for my grandmother and for my culture and my heritage and my language. And so this one is called An Apology to My Grandmother. Teta, my grandmother, what language do you speak and how do I learn it? How can I hear it and understand every word you say? How can I tell Teta my stories with my mother as my translator? If I do, are they even my stories anymore if they're interpreted in a way that I can't understand? أنا بحبك تيتا and مشتاقك كتير. I love you, Grandma, and I miss you so much. Are phrases I know, although do they really mean anything if I can't say anything else at all? My dear grandmother, who makes jaju farouche chicken and potatoes, and my favorite wara anib grape leaves. How can she understand my gratitude if all I can say is shukran, thank you, and leave? Min eedi habibti, from my hands beloved, she tells me with twinkles in her eyes. It's as if she sees herself through me. She has the biggest smile I've ever seen. It's scary that I can't see myself back. I'm scared I won't be able to smile back, or show the same twinkle in my eyes, or appreciate the way she speaks or the food that she cooks. I can't disappoint the culture I represent with small phrases and ties. Asfaya teta. I'm sorry, Grandma. Another reason why I found this one super important was I noticed how many people really related to me through that poem, and that's kind of why I got into poetry in the first place, was because it was a way I was able to relate to people and share my experiences through life, and yeah, I find that super important. This last one I have is called Dandelion, and it's kind of another one based on like childhood experiences and how we sort of mature into adulthood. Dandelion. One day, I'm going to be rolling in the wind, just like the dandelions I used to pick up with my childhood fingers, blowing harshly on them with my small lungs. I never got tired of being too lightheaded. I'd watch how adults would pick them up and throw them away instead of blowing on them, instead of spreading small, white, flowery dresses made for fairies. Sometimes now I blow on dandelions, just to see if my lungs are still strong enough to even breathe, to see if the child in me was taken too early and never got to finish giving her breaths to the wind. But now I get lightheaded, and that stops me from appreciating her. But I won't have to worry about that when it's my turn to travel where the wind takes me. The cycle repeats. I'll follow the breath of the wind, her wind. That's the last one. Not sure if I should have had any more prepared, but that's
Thank you.
kind of what I heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maram. Those were beautiful. There was always an overcoming going on in each of your poems. Be it you're talking about humanity or bedroom fears or the gulf a little bit with your grandmother, and then the dandelion situation. You present us with hope. You don't sit back and bemoan things. You move forward. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. Just terrific.
Thank you
Thank you.
for letting me share. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, the magic continues. Our next poet is Chloe Haggquist, who is a senior at Stevenson School. She's a longtime dancer, has participated in various dance performances and related nonprofit events. She's also a track athlete, student leader, and a member of her school's mock trial team. And Maram was also a member of her school's mock trial team, too. So Chloe does all of these. She's an artist as well and enjoys the visual arts, literature, and poetry. And we're going to hear some of the latter right now. Chloe, over to you. Thank you.
Hello. As you said, I'm Chloe. I have two poems by Ted Kooser that I want to perform today, which sort of relates to, one I performed for the 2020, or competed in the 2023 Poetry Out Loud event. And then I've just started writing poetry. So I'm going to share a short poem of my own. First, I want to talk about what spoken poetry means to me. As like an artist and a dancer, I think that poetry, particularly spoken poetry, has really made me more confident in so many ways throughout my life. And I think that it's so cool because poetry really is so expansive and touches everybody in a unique way. And I like to be able to like embody that and perform that and share that with the skills that I have. Yeah, so I will start with this one. I competed for Poetry Out Loud. It's called In the Basement of the Goodwill Store by Ted Kooser. I really like his poems, especially for Poetry Out Loud, because they have a really cool like performative quality. Yeah. So this is In the Basement of the Goodwill Store by Ted Kooser. In musty light, in the thin brown air of damp carpet, doll heads and rust, beneath long rows of sharp footfalls, like nails in a lid, an old man stands trying on glasses, lifting each pair from the box like a glittering fish, and holding it up to the light of a dirty book. Near him, a heap of enameled pans, as white as skulls, looms in the catacomb shadows, and old toilets with dry red throats cough up bouquets of curtain rods. You've seen him somewhere before. He's wearing the green leisure suit you threw out with the garbage, and the Christmas tie you hated, and the ventilated wing-tipped shoes you found in your father's closet and wore as a joke, and the glasses, which finally fit him, through which he looks to see you, looking back. Two mirrors which flash and glance are those through which, one day, you too will look down over the years, when you have grown old and thin and no longer particular, and the things you once thought you were rid of forever have taken you back in their arms. Thank you. So that's the first one. And then the second Ted Kooser poem that I found that I thought was super interesting is called Abandoned Farmhouse. And this is also available on the Poetry Out Loud website, which is how I found it. Yeah. So this is Abandoned Farmhouse by Ted Kooser. He was a big man, says the size of his shoes on a pile of broken dishes by the house. A tall man, too, says the length of the bed in an upstairs room. And a good, God-fearing man, says the Bible with a broken back on the floor below the window, dusty with sun. But not a man for farming, says the fields cluttered with boulders in the leaky barn. A woman lived with him, says the bedroom wall, papered with lilacs and the kitchen shelves covered with oilcloth. And they had a child, says the sandbox made from a tractor tire. Money was scarce, say the jars of plum preserves and canned tomatoes sealed in the cellar hole. In the winters cold, say the rags in the window frames. It was lonely here, says the narrow country road. Something went wrong, says the empty house in the weed-choked yard. Stones in the field say he was not a farmer. The still sealed jars in the cellar say she left in a nervous haste. And the child? Its toys are strewn in the yard like branches after a storm. A rubber cow, a rusty tractor with a broken plow, a doll in overalls. Something went wrong, they say. Okay, so that is my second spoken poem. And then the poem that I wrote myself is sort of about my experience as a girl and a woman, I guess. And it's called Double Standard. All right. Fairy tales and princesses become ballet shoes and ponytails, make glitter pens and good handwriting. Rom-coms and sitcoms and Jane Austen books teach of pink-washed love and make you smile, make you dream for a while. flower petals, purple candles, cupcake scented shampoo. Build smart, strong, independent women, hard workers who smell good too. But leggings always cost too much, and nail polish chips. And girly movies are naive, a waste of time, irrelevant. Dance class doesn't count as a sport, and bows are real uncool. Too much makeup is promiscuous, but barefaced girls are hideous. Why does it always come to this? All right. And then that was kind of inspired by sort of my experience as like a dancer. I'm a performer. I do theater and art. And I feel like outside of track, I really don't participate in many athletic activities. So I feel like it's kind of interesting how sometimes femininity isn't viewed as a strength, but as a weakness. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed speaking for all of you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chloe. That's great. Yes, double standard, that's for sure. And we're still dealing with that. I do think it's less of a burden than it was, but it's still there. And you speak with the frankness that Ted Kuzer speaks. And thank you for giving us him too, opening us up with a Pulitzer Prize winner, poet laureate, setting a tone which you carried on in your poem. And thank you very much for that, for sharing where you are. And yes, and track is a good outlet for you. But everything else that you're doing is too, including your performative dance, which is great. Well, thank you. And as I say, the magic does continue. Mahi Shah is our next poet. She's a senior at Notre Dame High School in her hometown, Salinas. She's a member of the swim team and president of the Environmental Stewardship Club. And she started writing from a very early age, but discovered poetry in middle school. And that resulted in her participating in the 2022 Monterey County Poetry Out Loud competition, which she won. And then she continued to cultivate her passion, her newfound passion for poetry by becoming, in other competitions, the Salinas Vice Youth Poet Laureate, and then most recently, the inaugural Monterey County Youth Poet Laureate. So congratulations, Mahi. Outside of school and poetry, she volunteers at the John Steinbeck Library, and in her free time, she likes to watch new TV shows, listen to Taylor Swift albums, which are good, and bake. So you lead a full, well-rounded life, Mahi. So thank you very much. And now over to you.
Hi, everyone. Like he said, my name is Mahi. I just want to say thank you guys all so much for having me here today. This is my first time doing any Zoom recitation, so I'm sorry if I mess up or anything. My first poem that I'll be reciting is called Ma Ka Ghar, which means my mother's house in my native language of Gujarati. This is one of the first poems that I wrote when I wanted to apply to become the Monterey County Youth Poet Laureate. And as a first generation, student, child of immigrant parents, it's kind of about feeling a little bit disconnected from culture and stuff like that. My middle name is my father's first name. This is unusual. For Gujaratis, it is a tradition passed down, father to son, of tracing our patrilineal lineage back 7 generations. My dad does it. On road trips, he counts the knuckle lines of his brown fingers above his golden class ring. His name, his father's name, his grandfather's. It goes on. He is sure of his place in this world. One hand on the steering wheel and the other next to my mom's on the cup holder. His eyes focus on the blurred white lines of the road, while the soft voices of Bollywood singers lull my sister and me to sleep from the CD player. Their places in the world weren't so definite for a while. I wasn't there for those early years, not even a thought in either of their minds. But my sister was. They flew to the States with the 1-year-old in tow on an almost 19-hour voyage, moving from apartment to apartment until they found the house which became my home. Central Salinas is nothing like the birthplaces of my mother and father, but it is everything to me. Downtown Bombay sings with the cacophony of rickshaw drivers and street food vendors. Downtown Salinas sings with quiet footsteps and warm summer air. We have fields which stretch to the end of the earth, while Ahmedabad has so many stores that each neighborhood is defined by the strip mall it's closest to. Or it is now, at least. My mom says that when she was a kid, there were fields behind her house, too. My mom believes that hospitality is important. I grew up watching her race around the kitchen, kneading dough up to her elbows while on the phone with old aunts and cousins, talking louder and louder as if it would help her cover the thousands of miles between them faster. Sound waves, somehow, carrying a message too minuscule for the light years to catch. She tells me that she grew up living in a perpetual way station, where families would stay for a night or for weeks before moving on or going back home. Loving others means taking care of them, for my mom. Ideals passed down from her grandparents to her parents to her. My parents, also, speak 3 languages each. For my dad, it is the Gujarati of his ancestors, the Marathi of his hometown in Maharashtra, and Hindi, which flows off his tongue like butter. For my mom, it is the Gujarati of her ancestors, the Sanskrit of her holy books, and Hindi which flows off her tongue like sweet rasmalai. My mom's Sanskrit has faded over the years as her high school days grow further and further behind, rudimentary Spanish nestling its roots in her larynx instead. They speak sentences flavored with every regional language imaginable, crossing national boundaries mindlessly, purposely reminding themselves of the color of the blood in their veins. The words which nestle on my tongue are as bland as any American food. When I was much younger, we visited India every few years. Every year, like clockwork, roots would settle in my stomach alongside the traditional dhokla and undiu, Gujarati flowing off of my tongue, as smooth as my mom's dry. And every year, like clockwork, I would come back home and watch as those roots withered to nothing with each bowl of cereal I ate. Salinas is my home. I grew up here, went to school here, made friends and lost them in these city streets. I spent my summers browsing the books at Steinbeck Library, going to the weekly farmers market and waving hello to my neighbors. I learned to swim at the aquatic center next to Sherwood and spent hours riding my bike at Laurelwood. I've chased ice cream trucks on the same city streets where I scraped my knees trying to play volleyball. I will graduate high school here and will one day grow old in the same town where I learned to read. But the sun which rises and sets here isn't the one in India. Isn't it sad? Diamonds, sparkling with years of history, culture, of growth, condensed into the coal of a few short anecdotes. I've never seen the fields where my mom used to celebrate Diwali, and the apartment complex my dad grew up in was demolished years ago. I can't count my patrilineal line. I can't read or write in the language my ancestors had used for centuries. And one day, I will visit India for the last time without ever knowing. Such an intricate tapestry of growth, of tradition, of community, unraveling at the seams. What will my children know? And my children's children? I wish, more than anything, to speak the languages and to know the people and to keep India in my heart as my father and mother do. Salinas has already taken up the space in the gaps of my teeth and hollow in my chest. But who knows? Maybe, hopefully. My life is just a blip in the never-ending story of my family. A detour before finding itself continue its way back home to the smell of freshly baked bread in a white-tiled way station. That's it. That's the longest poem I've ever written, and I've never actually recited it in total before, so I didn't realize like how much time that would take, so sorry about that. My other poems are a lot shorter actually. This next one, actually let me try and find it. Sorry about that. This next one is one I wrote. I believe it was Jennifer who mentioned this about writing poems in response to something else similarly. For a sophomore year English assignment, we had to write a response to a poem. I can't remember what the poem was. It's kind of famous though. I'm sure you guys might recognize it. But this is my little response to that. It's very short, so it won't be as long as the last one. And it's called Apple Pie Life. Half my life is yet to come, and I have yet to see the sights promised to me by fathers whose words are as empty as their minds when picked. I know to not build a tower on bedrock of candy, but instead to live blue and brave, caring for nothing but myself rather than goals I don't wish to reach. Thus now my life is bland, sweet as the honey in my mother's sweets. But blueprints of future are locked in my mind, testaments to my coming love and loss. I want to eat peppers with tears of joy running down my face. My entire life I was told, I should become a doctor, become an engineer and stuff like that. So not pursuing, but, enjoying poetry and stuff like that wasn't really considered like a particular opportunity or something I could do. So this is just, figuring out what I actually want to do instead of whatever the other people are telling me to do. This next poem is also pretty short. It's about, as I said, I'm the president of the environmental club at my school, so I see a lot about environmentalism and stuff, and sometimes it definitely feels like we're ignoring a lot about, what we should be doing to protect the earth, to protect our environment. So this next poem is called Dandelion Seeds. No one was surprised when she passed. She had hands which shook like falling leaves, a bone-white eye already gazing into the veil, a voice as quiet as the footfalls behind her during her final breaths. Her exhales, the great scream of a black hole, bright and collapsing all in one infinite moment. Birds flew high above, wind under wing, as the carbon dioxide of one measly woman fell to the flowers crushed underfoot by chattering tourists. Those great parasites, bees and leeches alike, stunk of the perfume of flowering lemon trees, their emperor robes of excess trailing behind an entourage of blind dogs' panting tongues. Crows soared lazily through the air, drunk off the oxygen of her dying breath. That was it. This is my last poem. It's very similar. It's about environmentalism, about, protecting the earth while we still have it, because we don't have a lot of time left to, take care of this beautiful world around us. And it's also pretty short, so don't worry too much about that. And it's called What Happens After an Alien Abduction. I was walking to the library when the alarms began to sound. The inverted siren song dug into my skin, ants running up and down my arms, to the beat of the yelling of the people, those few left. Dogs strutted down the street, barking at friends and at one another, fighting and forgetting in a constant cycle with no end. In the gusts of wind, plastic Walmart bags whipped through the sky, a spot of light, and the bright red eye peering down at us from above. Children stained their shoes on red stones and played football on artificial lawns in my mind, calling back to the ads now crumpled on the streets and used as pothole covers. I tripped over the heel of a pair of sparkling red slippers as the screams of the howling wind deafened those few of us left behind. That's it. Thank you guys all so much for this opportunity, and also thank you to Maram and Chloe. Like, you guys' poems were so amazing. It was so beautiful to hear that. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mahi. That was terrific. There's a depth, an openness, and a beauty to what you shared with us today, and thank you for that. You talked about at one point the intricate tapestry of growth and community unraveling, and took us through the tension of living and coming from and growing up in two very different parts of this world. And I can see and feel your sense of things unraveling, and that resonated with your concern about our natural environment unraveling with what we are doing to it. I connect that in my mind with the phrase or the little part you talked about, the suggestion that you become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. That's not clearly at this point what you want to do. You want to focus on what you want to do. And I have a sense that what you want to do is going to be involved with preventing the unraveling of things and restoring and holding things precious as they are. So thank you for that. Thank you for what you're going to do with your life, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and your poetry with us today. Well, folks, that's it. What a marvelous showcase this has been today of poetry by three just terrific, gifted, prize-winning poets that we are lucky to have as part of our community here. So thank you again, and thank you for joining us today. The momentum and the magic will continue. What we've done today will happen again next month, Sunday, August 13th. Rachel Escamilla and Pilar Graham will be our two poets. They will come to us again via Zoom, and we think maybe, if we're lucky, that will be our last Zoom-only get-together. Kent is working along with Jennifer and me on getting us a venue. We actually have some choices, so we are blessed with that. So thank you for being with us. Please come again and join us in August. You can find out about us on our Facebook page, MontereyBayPoetryConsortium.com. And if you'd like more information, please contact Kent. He has put his email address into the chat room, so you can go there and get it. And do, as I say, like us on Facebook. Check us out at the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium on YouTube. And again, thank you for being with us. It's been a great afternoon. Our three poets, Maram and Chloe and Mahi, thank you so much for making our day and for giving us really a wonderful afternoon. You guys take good care, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month.